Right guys, on to elections and voting systems. So again, one of your foundations of a democratic system. Right, who can stand for election? You need to know this, often a question in some form. So if you want to be a candidate in a local election, you must be 18 years old, be a British citizen or eligible Commonwealth citizen. You need to be registered. You need to have occupied as an owner or tenant any land or premises within the local council area. Your place of work for the past 12 months has to be in the local council area, and if you've lived in the local council area during the whole of the 12 months before the day your election papers have been handed in. So basically they want somebody local to stand in the local elections. All right. You are disqualified if you're employed by the local authority, if you have politically restricted posts, if you are the subject of bankruptcy, being sentenced to a term of imprisonment, or you are disqualified. So keep them in mind. Now, if you want to be a candidate in the local election in the UK as well, you must be 18. Again, same kind of principles. Again, so one on the right's looking for more generic stuff. You've got the citizens of other countries, such as the exemption, of other countries like Republic of Ireland, Cyprus, and Malta. You're disqualified if you're a civil servant. Remember, they need to be politically neutral. Members of the police force, judges, essentially individuals who need to be politically neutral. Right, candidate selection process, how does that work? Well, basically each party has their own method. Generally when you are selecting a candidate in the party, they will advertise. They normally have a list of candidates approved by the National Party before they put their names forward. So remember, you've got like Labour, Conservative, Liberal Democrats, we're thinking here, and then they've got a list, and the local party will decide who to put up in that election. Look again, shortlist, as I said. Returning officer, they will oversee the whole process. Some have open primaries where any local resident can vote at a meeting, not just the party members. Political parties are also able to run women-only shortlists, basically to ensure diversity. However, this is not allowed in other areas due to discrimination. Again, I won't go over that. You can have a little look. It goes into a lot of detail there. It's the general overview of candidate selection. You just need to know that there is a process of how you stand for election as a member of a party, okay? Which is going to be different if you stand as an independent. Right. So that was just a little touch upon the who can stand and who cannot. Remember, you can also be an independent if you've got your own political beliefs. It's just harder when you're looking at the candidate selection process and people who can stand for election. Yes, in theory, our democratic right to stand for election as an independent. You're at a massive disadvantage though, because the truth is, the amount of money that Labour and Conservative, these big parties, have to help you in your campaign just gives them a very unfair advantage. So just think about that as well. Okay? Right, who can and cannot vote? So who can? 18 and over, British citizen, not subject to any legal incapacity to vote. You need to be basically declared mentally unfit to vote by the state. Who can't vote? Members of the House of Lords, EU citizens, anyone who other than British, Irish, qualifying Commonwealth citizens, convicted persons in prison, anyone found guilty of corrupt illegal practices. Again, and as I said before, those are being detained under the Mental Health Act. Okay. Who can vote in a local election? You've got to be on the electoral register, voting age, you need to be a British citizen. Now, where do these debates come into it? Lovely question this, and I think it's a question that everyone can have a go at. Just think logically about these kind of questions, guys. it will be a variance of this. So and so says that the lowering the voting age from 18 to 16 is would increase the voter output. Blah 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 blah. It's the same thing. It's a debate about voting age. You need a paragraph that agrees with it, paragraph that disagrees, or examining the statement of lowering the voting age. Again, weigh it up, pros and cons. I've just laid out general arguments you could use for this one. The laws that are in people's manifestos, they would impact younger people more because they're going to have to live in this country longer. In theory, don't get offended, but in theory, so they have more. It's more important to them, or it could be seen as more important to them. You can consent to sex at this time. You can join the armed forces. You can even get married at 16. So why not vote? Again, might get people more interested in politics or citizenship. Young people may have better knowledge as well. I've done it before. I've met kids who have got a far greater knowledge, who have got far greater knowledge than some adults I've argued with, who really don't have a clue about politics. Some students are really switched on. Is that general argument that the younger you are, the more ignorant you are, doesn't always apply. Arguments against it, again, maturity. People don't legally become adults till 18. Again, life experience, haven't completed their full education, maybe easily influenced by social media. So to me, they are very they're very kind of obvious kind of things you can bring into it. This kind of question will really test you in terms of your writing skills. Remember 3-4 points, just develop them. Just always be thinking, right, why? How is this proving my argument? That's what citizenship's really all about. Right, issues relating to voting. So this is like voter apathy. Why don't people vote? Basically, people are quite concerned about turnouts. Just have a look at that list. The percentages, it is relatively low. It's been hovering in the 60s for a while. Why? People don't care. People don't know. Nobody represents them. Feels their vote won't count. They might have even difficulty voting. Again, turnout in different Sorry, I did that again. Do have a look. Do pause it on that last slide and just have a little look. So, how to encourage more people to vote. This is another popular question that I'd like to do. I've seen it a lot in source questions. So and so's moaning because they can't vote about this and so forth. You've got to then think of strategies to kind of help them vote. Okay, so allow voting at weekends, changing polling hours, opening polling stations in different locations, encourage postal voting and early voting. I think voting online is a good argument. There's obviously problems with that, but voting online makes it more accessible. I know, I not generally try and vote, but I've been lazy before and just been like, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to go to the voting station. Whereas online, I probably always would. So you can do that. Again, making issues more readily available. I feel like sometimes politicians can overcomplicate issues, or people who enjoy politics can use it as like a way to sound arrogant and how clever and brilliant they are, and overcomplicate very simple issues to intellectually dominate and intimidate individuals when it's actually just quite simple. So I think making that accessible could be key. There's loads of ways you can answer it, really is. And to be honest, this is a great question for you guys because it's really like you could just think of this question: what would get me more involved in politics? What would make me want to vote? So really do think about that. Again, yeah, online. Right. So looking a little bit at referendums. Remember, referendum is an example of direct democracy where everybody got a vote on that specific law. So in 2016, a referendum was held in the UK regarding its membership of the European Union. The result was in favour of the UK leaving. The UK ceased to be a member in EU in January 2020. So again, just have a look at the number of seats in the EU at the top there. Look at the vote share. So the transition period was negotiated. This is just about how it all worked, what the effects of Brexit was going to be. Don't skip Brexit when you're looking at citizenship, all right? Because it does really it might be quite important in this year's paper. Think about the impact Brexit had. Think about the positives and negatives in those arguments. I will go through that a little bit more in another slide, but again, or another video. But do make sure you're reading revision guides, especially on the issues that Brexit brought into it. Right. So this is just looking a little bit at the European Parliament. So again, I'm not sure how relevant this will be considering we're out the EU, but it's still on spec, or it's still in the book. So again, don't overlook it. Just be aware of how it works. It is use of proportional representation, so do be aware of that. So when the elections were first held in the UK to the European Parliament, MEPs, so an MEP is just a member of European Parliament, using first past the post in England, Scotland and Wales. So that was initially it. However, it does eventually change. Every member of the EU must use a proportional system of voting, for the actual system can vary from country to country. So again, can be a bit complicated, but it's a good example of how different systems use different voting systems. Remember, ours is first past the post. Turnout was quite low. Right, just a little bit on how the EU is set up. Countries with the highest turnout were Belgium, Luxembourg. I mean, Luxembourg doesn't have that many people, so not a great statistic, but there you are. Lowest being things like Czech Republic. Again, your main focus should be on Britain's kind of awareness in it. So they sit in transnational groups. So they sit basically in groups that they're politically aligned to. For example, the Social Democrats will all sit together. All right. So that's basically the right-wing groups will sit together. The left-wing groups will sit together. It's in a horseshoe design, which remember is very much different to our House of Commons, which are opposite. So again, just have a read through that. Don't neglect it. It's I've never seen a focused question on the European Parliament. They do put them in these little 1 marker, 2 marker, or potentially a 4 marker. And this one is just a graphic, just to give you an idea of the political groups in the European Parliament. Now, I'm not going to go through them. You can read them yourselves. Again, I was debating whether to include the EU stuff, but it's there for you if you want to have a look. I think there's better stuff in the revision guide. Like I said, always use these videos alongside the revision guide. But again, just gives you a good graphic of where everyone sits. Right, I'll leave it there.